Along with my husband Dan and our team, we are thrilled to be here with you today and to welcome Gretchen Jamison and Jim Kaczmarek from Kaczmarek Enterprises. In late October, Jim and Gretchen and the team at Kaczmarek Enterprises officially opened the Kaczmarek Center for Human Performance, a new entity aiming to help employees at Kaczmarek and other businesses flourish. The Kaczmarek Center is also looking to partner with organizations in the community in an effort to help their staff and those they serve fulfill their true potential. Gretchen Jamison is Chief Learning Officer and Group President of Human Performance and Social Impact at Kaczmarek Enterprises. She's invested her career leading organizations from potential to possible. Her leadership vision focuses on developing individuals and systems to discover, achieve, and advocate their distinctive purposes for themselves, for others, and by extension for the greater good. She joined Kaczmarek Enterprises in May of 21 after 7 years as Senior Vice President for Strategy and University Affairs at Concordia University, Wisconsin. She's a graduate of Concordia University, Nebraska, holds a master's in public relations from Webster University, and earned her doctorate from University of Southern California, where her research focused on the formation of change readiness in higher education middle management. Jim Kaczmarek is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Kaczmarek Enterprises, a portfolio of companies that includes Capco Metal Stamping, the 2019 Corporate Citizen of the Year at BizTimes Nonprofit Excellence Awards, SpeedCore Performance Group, House of Harley-Davidson, and interests in sports, entertainment, and music. Jim and his businesses have been active community members, giving back through many charitable causes, including Hometown Heroes and Kids to Kids Christmas Toy Drive. Welcome, Gretchen and Jim, and now I'll turn it over to our BizTimes Managing Editor, Arthur Thomas.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Gretchen and Jim, for being here. Excited to have this conversation with both of you. Well, let's start here with Kaczmarek Enterprises and Capco, Jim. As Kate mentioned, you guys were the 2019 Corporate Citizen of the Year. And I think a lot of people are maybe familiar with some of the philanthropic efforts that Capco's had over the years, whether it's Hometown Heroes or Kids to Kids Christmas Toy Drive. Curious, when Capco started giving back and kind of developing a defined philanthropic program within the company, what did that look like, and how did you go about kind of nourishing it to grow into something it's been something pretty substantial?
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody, and what a beautiful room this is, and this is the city of Milwaukee right here, the people that make a difference in a community, so God bless you, and thank you for being here. Listen, I don't know, my journey here is to be truthful, is a super humble beginning and a situation where leaned into a family business, was pretty well focused on just trying to get married, have children, get a picket fence, start to put some money away for kids' education. And to be honest, I was very, very focused on that. And it's not like I didn't think about others, but I don't know that I had the capacity or the time, and it's just a different focus, right? Somewhere, as I reached my early 40s, I woke up and said, boy, pretty blessed guy. A lot of things achieved, and had some real introspection of trying to think about what I could do and what's the purpose of all this and why I was so blessed. And I am a man of faith, and I did try to think about that and kind of leaned in and did some things, and all of a sudden an instant blessing came back. I kind of repeated it, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, there's something more here. So, I started to really think about other people in my early 40s, and we had the whole 9/11, and we focused on the first responders and the people giving back, and everybody has a soft heart for kids, right? That are in need. So we really focused on kids that just had a tough beginning in life, and that's really where we started. And there's so many opportunities there to reach out and touch kids that just haven't had a great start. So that's where our heart began. We started Hometown Heroes, helping Gold Star children, Camp reunite and really started to begin our philanthropic work pretty hardcore at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. How did you go about kind of nourishing it at Capco? Because I'm sure it wasn't just you doing it. I'm sure your team, your employees contributed to it. How did you help foster that so that it continued to grow and could become something much bigger than what it maybe started out as?
Well, to be real, I began to be a little bit more purposeful as to the people that I started to hire or surround myself with. Really, everybody's got a different mission field and a different approach, and so inside our walls, we talked about it a lot. It's part of our corporate, metrics, the things that we do, and you can't really push that on anybody. You just got to lead and hope that more and more people follow. And so we reached out as we began to start thinking about different people. Even in the interviewing process, we'd learned a little bit more depth about who they were as people and what their fields were and their missions were, because, yeah, we're a metal manufacturing company, and absolutely we need to manufacture money to be able to do things. So we have to have great people in that space. But we're looking for people that had a mission field to do more, and we started to really nurture that inside our walls, and we talk about it on a regular basis.
Certainly. Gretchen, turning to you, so you joined Kazmarek Enterprises in May of 2021, as Kate mentioned. Curious how much that whole background of Capco and their philanthropic efforts, how much did you take that into consideration as you were thinking about, taking on the mission that we'll talk about in a minute that Jim laid out for you?
Absolutely. Well, good morning. And for me, having spent 2.5 decades serving primarily in faith-based nonprofit spaces, it really was non-negotiable, right? If that hadn't been a part of what the organization represented and the vision for the organization beyond dollars and cents, beyond those, KPI six-packs that drive all of us every day, I don't know that we would have had an ongoing conversation, right? And I think it's that key Jim mentioned in our own hiring. Often we talk about, and especially all of us in nonprofit spaces, we talk about, is this individual a mission fit, right? How many of you have asked that type of a question? And a few years ago, I began to change that question as I would interview people and even change it for myself. And my question became, not how are you a mission fit for our organization, but how is our mission, vision, values, passion point, how are we a fit for how you see the world, for your worldview? Where do we puzzle piece into what your why is all about? And that, it's subtle, but it changes the game. And for me, that was the kind of conversation that Jim and I had very unexpectedly on a random Tuesday in October of 2020.
Remembers it to the day.
It was just so weird.
I had a minute. I'm calling her right now. I'm going to give her.
I'll give 15 minutes, and that's all you took. I think you were right under. And here we are.
Mm-hmm. So Jim, it didn't start in May 2021. It was earlier that he.
It was a slow roll. It was a slow roll, but yeah.
Certainly, there's a few things going on in 20 and 21, right. Especially in the higher education space. So you did join Capco and Kazmarek Enterprises, and a big part of what you were tasked to do was launch the Kazmarek Center for Human Performance. I wonder if maybe we just start off with kind of a super high level. What is K-CHIP? What are you kind of trying to do with this entity?
Absolutely. So I started, we didn't even have a name for it yet. It was an idea, right? And I say that at the heart, not to be like obscure, but really that at the heart of it, Kazmarek Center, we call it K-CHIP. You can all call it that now too, kind of like you can call me Gret, we can be friends. We're purveyors of an idea. And that idea is a vision of a better world where every person can pursue their best future toward a common good. And to do that distinctively through all of our businesses, right? It's not just in the lane of the K-CHIP. That was crucial to our why. But Kazmarek Center for Human Performance is working in 3 key areas, right? We're focused on corporate learning and development, which is just what you would expect it to be, right, for the 14 entities in our corporate portfolio and growing, so that those humans are living into their best life every single day, not just so that they do more for us, that's key, but so they do more for their families, their neighborhoods, their communities. Secondly, products and services in that well-being performance space, right? Jim, we've got to manufacture some Benjamins a little bit to fund this bigger, bolder why, which is the third part of our work, which is the social impact lane. taking everything. And that to me was the most appealing when Jim said, I want you to figure out how to take everything we build and do and develop and spin it out so that it becomes available to individuals who don't often have access to that level of formation and opportunity. And that's incredibly exciting work.
So, Jim, you gave Gretchen and her team this big task to take on with the Kaczmarek Center. Why do that? Why take this effort to a whole another level? Why not just have a corporate development team or leadership development team within Capco and your companies and leave it at that and continue with Hometown Heroes, the things you were doing? Why take on this bigger mission?
Well, I guess because humbly we're blessed to be able to do some of that. And the visions that I have and the dialogues that I think sometimes in my head, I think I'm only one that's getting it. But when I talk with Gretchen and the team, they're right there with me instantaneously. And we've had an opportunity, just like everybody in this room. That's why you're here today, right? Because you care about other people and other opportunities. I have so many different opportunities, businesses, things that I've been around and serially collected in a shoebox and effectively wishing to stitch it all together right now and try to do a bigger, bolder thing. And when you hire people like Gret and other types of people that can imagine and drive with you, that's what's super exciting for us. And we have an opportunity here, and that's what we wanted to share with you guys, to take these opportunities, brilliant people that are running this Human Performance Center, and gives us an opportunity to think bigger and bolder. I'm a guy who believes that, like, as we think about what our individual possibilities could be, or what a business could be, that we somehow limit ourselves. We think we can get to this peak, and that's what we kind of feel like, boy, wouldn't that be something? With this team, we have no mountain peak. We can do so many things. And our hope is today is to share more and collect opportunities and stitch things together and be able to parlay things and talk to all of you to lean into us and allow us to help your missions and give every single person, not just kids, 60-year-old men, everything in between, kids that are trying to figure out what to go to college, high school, all those different things, every single person, a bigger, bolder vision of an opportunity to live that one life that we each have one chance on this earth, to be the best versions of ourselves, to achieve what we feel inside our hearts are telling us to do. And we've got a team here to be able to do that.
So Gretchen, Jim gives you this big, bold vision that you have to go try and execute on. As you set about establishing kind of what K-CHIP was going to look like, especially on the social impact side of it. We've got there's the potential business line piece, there's the internal to Kaczmarek Enterprise piece, but as you were thinking about how to establish this on the social enterprise front, what were some of the key considerations, what were some of the key questions that you guys asked yourself to try and establish this thing in a way that would be additive to the community and not dilutive in any way?
Oh, I love that question. You know, I'm from, I don't know if I should say this. I'm from St. Louis. We won't talk about my baseball affiliations, but in St. Louis, we have a tremendous array of nonprofits. Milwaukee and the greater Southeast, kind of M7 space, holy smokes, right? So first piece was, wow, we don't want to come into that space and add one more, right? How can we be, if you're a fan of Clayton Christensen, I am, Harvard guy, talks a lot about innovation. And when he talks about social innovation, he talks about something called catalytic disruption, which is not just doing something better or even more innovatively, but really doing something new and truly disruptive. And so that was like a leading, just kind of how I'm wired, right? Okay, what could we do? And then the second piece was, who do we need to bring into a room to help us think about this? So this past summer, and I see a number of those folks in the room, you can go ahead and put your hand up. A few of you were a part of that conversation. And yep, and you helped us think about the greater kind of good of this region and where could we land. And we developed a framework around that, right? Where can we have catalytic disruption? Where can we bring our specific genius around organizational flourishing to bear? How can we pursue something that has our bias for replication and scale? Jim doesn't like to do like things like this. It's more like this. So how can we fill that value, right? How can we have a priority on partnerships? And so it started with first a clear value set around what needs to be, and then crowdsourcing and getting input, and where should we land? And so those were two really important pieces as we shaped the social impact vision.
What are maybe some of the value set you developed? What are some of those values that are at the heart of what you're trying to do? So
the Kaczmarek Center operates on three core values of opportunity, growth, and well-being. We call it human flourishing, right? Flourishing is when, I love to garden, when that beautiful flower in your garden is at its fullest bloom. It's the most beautiful, fullest bloom, right? That's flourishing. And all people, I'm also a woman of faith, have an innate capacity to achieve that and are uniquely created to achieve that. So how do we create the conditions for that? So opportunity, well-being, growth being key drivers to everything we do. But then again, with the social impact piece, it's got to be catalytic disruption. It has to have a replication bias. It needs to elevate a partnership model. It has to focus uniquely on Southeast Wisconsin at this time in the space of children, youth, families, and it's going to be provider focused. That might be the most interesting part for the nonprofits in the room. We're not interested in coming into this space and usurping or going around or starting to intersect in communities where great work already happens and should happen on the ground in those communities with the people who know those communities best. What we know how to do, our educational team, I would say, we're pretty decent at helping people apply learning-based solutions to flourish individually and systemically. So how can we serve providers so that their people flourish and therefore impact their communities in greater, deeper, bolder ways? So that's kind of the frame. Yeah. I could talk all day. I won't, Arthur. I won't. Although I do have your cell phone. I have your cell phone number now, so
yeah,
it's always good to have a journalist's cell phone number.
Provider focused and partnering with them. What maybe are some examples, kind of as tangible as we can be, of what that work together might look like? If I'm a nonprofit in the room and this is sounding good to me, and I want my staff I know we have more potential in us. What is it going to look like if I work with KCHIP?
Right. So our model is built on what we call the KMO framework. Gap to Goal framework is what we call it, and it's a learning-based process. I won't geek you all out on. You heard where I got my doctorate, yada, yada. Yes, I could talk all day. I could talk all day about how people learn. But this product, this opportunity is a 8-week incubator. This would be a starting point. We call it Level Up. We just did it with Bucks Gaming, of all things. And we see they're figuring out how to do it in a way that benefits others, not just those high-profile groups, right? And folks go through the process and they understand what their gap to goal is around any performance goal. And they can do it individually or as a group. That would be a great place to start. Or perhaps working with us, we have a strengths-based coaching workshop for teams. That might be an interesting place to start. So the first thing would be a conversation, because it has to start there, right? Sometimes we just throw tactics at people. And let's talk first about what the goal is and then reverse engineer and get you there through learning-based approaches that help you develop so that you own your own capacity. Mm-hmm. But Jim may have some insight on that too.
Exactly. I mean, we definitely want to be listening and connecting the dots. You know, we have so many different connections and talent in the room, and that's why we hired it to really stitch things together and really try to figure out our place of, you know, really helping and leaning into all the great work that's being done here. And we spent a lot of time thinking about how we can do that and accomplish it. And, you know, Gret's right. As soon as, you know, tomorrow or any time you guys want to call us or lean in and allow us to learn a tad more about what you're up to, we'd love to have a great conversation with you and see if there's something that we can do to help you in any way possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. I yesterday went back and we mentioned the 2019 Corporate Citizen Award, and then I went back and checked out the acceptance speech that we'll be hearing similar versions from folks today. And you talked a lot about, I mean, you think that the KapCo team, but then you quickly turn to, everyone else in the room and pointed out how it doesn't matter who you're helping. The fact is you're a beacon of light. You're helping others, and the whole focus was on all the folks in this room. Curious, so there's all the other pieces that went into the Capco philanthropic efforts before this. Where does all that fit into the kind of the go-forward vision of what the company and Kasmeric Enterprises will be doing? Camp Hometown Heroes, Kids Kid Christmas, things like that.
Well, all of those legacy things that we've done, we're certainly going to continue, and actually we're energizing and we're bolstering up some of those things. You know, the kids that we help through the camps and the toy drives that we have and the various different things that we've done over the years, we're multiplying right now. There's active work from that perspective, and those nonprofits are going to continue to flourish. We're pondering, is this the season or the time to take the Kasmeric Center for Human Performance, develop that 501c3, develop a nonprofit, maybe stitch some of these together, or create separate lanes. We haven't reached that conclusion just yet, but all that work's going to continue and to flourish because it's part of just who we love helping kids. Everybody does, right? But now we have an opportunity to do so much more, not only in southeastern Wisconsin, and then in Wisconsin, and then in the Midwest and beyond, and that is the mission, and that's where we're going.
A couple of audience questions that we've got, so kind of put this in two parts. So we have one that's, what do you believe is the most significant unmet need in Milwaukee that public-private partnerships should be working on now? And somewhat related, I suppose, how do you see the work you are doing is going to change and create kind of real conversation and accountability around changing what they have here is the pervasive racism that gets in the way of our community flourishing? So important issues that need to be addressed. And how does your work fit into what I think MMAC has it as a top priority? A lot of folks have it as a top priority to address the racial inequities in our broader community.
You know, learning is, in my opinion, and that's all it is, learning is the key to how community flourishes at the civic level in its most fulsome sense. I think that, I tell people, I'm just a teacher. I started out at Milwaukee Lutheran back in 1997, a long time ago. I don't know if there's any Red Knights in the room, but there are a few. Awesome. But learning, right, the capacity to unlock for a student, in our case now, an adult learner, a learner, a view of what their world can and should be, and then equipping them to pursue it, that's key. And so I do believe that by having this learning-based focus, we are recognizing the vast talent of the M7 region and beyond, right? It's not like we have a dearth of genius. We have so much genius that is waiting for us to cultivate and tap into together and develop. There is no limitation there. And I believe that when you begin to address education and learning, you begin to expand people's viewpoint and understand some of these other systemic pieces that challenge us so deeply in this community. There too, that's been a wake up. Moving back after living here 20 years ago and coming back and seeing our city ranked where it is in terms of racism and class divide and these other pieces, socioeconomic barriers, I think there's a tremendous opportunity to have these pieces go together. And there's a reason that you listed a lot of educational partners, Arthur, in that list of the work of dismantling these things. And so I think there's a powerful connection there.
Real simple, I just like to add one quick thing. This is something that we've thought quite a bit about, and it's just not right in this world that people don't have enough food, don't have the dignity of owning a home, can't get out of a situation, and it's not right. So many of you are working towards making that a better place, and Milwaukee, even though I'm a North Shore guy, Milwaukee is my world, is my life, as it is for all of you guys. And we are beginning something, as you might have heard, called the Iron District, where we're bringing soccer down to the city of Milwaukee. And I promise you that so much of those thoughts and the things that we're doing down there are very, very, very focused on helping the city of Milwaukee to bring people of all all races, religions, everybody together, and providing a ton of opportunities for that particular area, the west side, down in Milwaukee. We're leaning in now hard to that particular issue of really helping give families and children and people a better opportunity to be the best versions of themselves. It happens neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street, and we're planting ourselves down into the city of Milwaukee, and we're going to connect to those neighborhoods and those cities street by street.
Another audience question here. I mean, we talk about there's a lot of great, nonprofits doing a lot of great work, but obviously you're seeing a need to partner with them. The question is, in your opinion, what is the most common kind of lacking leadership element that limits nonprofit community impact? So what kind of area do you think, what gap to goal will you be filling?
That is a trick question. How do you answer that one without maybe alienating half the, anyway, having served in nonprofit space for 25 years, I think it's often bandwidth, right? It's not necessarily competence. We think about leadership in terms of competence and capacity. It's often capacity. And so figuring out how to help, it's often, I would submit in nonprofit spaces, rarely a challenge around motivation and those key indicators of what drives motivation. And so I think it's helping our organizations think differently and think creatively and lean into and learn how to develop and build and drive their own sense of capacity as leaders and organizations to really flourish more vibrantly and to have kind of a win in terms of that growth. That's what I see as I interact with many different sizes of nonprofits.
We'll wrap up with this one, and I guess for both of you really. What will success for the Kacsmaryk Center for Human Performance look like in 3, 5, 10 years, especially on the social impact piece of what you're trying to do? What will success look like? What's the grand vision here?
Well, short term, we're excited to open that building and have all kinds of young kids coming in and all kinds of programming, free programming for the city, for the community at large, and being witness of just the activity that's happening in there. So this is the first year thing where sometimes the work that each and every one of you do gets energized when you see your work begin to make sense and begin to impact people. So that's our first year. A little bit of Red Bull that we're needing as we grind to this. We're ready to start to see some of that activity to get us kind of moving. But we definitely want to replicate this in a big way, and we want to impact millions of people. I always say this annually, and folks are like, it's a big goal. It is, and we're going to get there, and we're going to replicate what we're doing in Milwaukee, and we're going to replicate what we're doing in other areas as well, to really provide an opportunity for thousands and thousands of people, kids, adults that just don't have the same chance to get a free opportunity to get meaningful education, meaningful college credits for free, all kinds of things that we can do by connecting the dots, and we need all of your guys' help to do some of that as well.
All right. Well, 1 million lives a year, that's quite the goal. We'll wish you good luck in
this group is already nailing 1 million lives. We'll add another 1 million to it. So God bless everyone that's in this room for sure.
Appreciate it.